Good evening and welcome to another edition of Friday Night Flights. This one is going to be a little bit different than previous issues because tonight's featured wine is whiskey. Bourbon whiskey, to be exact. Got a couple great examples here of American bourbon whiskey. Now, bourbon is actually whiskey made in America. To be called bourbon, it has to be made with brand new charred oak barrels. Once they are used once, they can no longer be called bourbon. What comes out of them is whiskey. So that first use is when we get what's called bourbon. Tends to be a little sweeter and delicious. Now, the reason that we are talking about bourbon tonight is last weekend, Lisa and I hosted our first ever martini party. And we had martinis of all type: dirty, neat, spicy, super fruity, super sweet. And we had a bourbon martini that I made that I think was a real hit. And that's what I'm going to share with you tonight is my recipe for a bourbon martini. Now, we've got everything that we need right here. We're going to start with our shaker. I've already got some ice in there. This is going to be such a simple recipe. You're going to want to make it at home. Use some good bourbon. I'm using 105 proof Breckenridge bourbon. That's their high proof blend. We're going to go with 2 ounces of bourbon. Maybe a little more. Next, we're going to hit 1 ounce of sweet vermouth. Not the dry, sweet vermouth. We're going to follow that up with bitters, orange Angostura bitters. We're going to do 2 shots of that, two shakes of that. Let's give it a third. So that's it. That's all we have in this that goes into the shaker in this martini. We've got bourbon, we've got sweet vermouth, we've got bitters. We're going to put the cap on that, shake it up. We're not going to do that on live video because that could get messy. But through the magic of the internet, look at that. Just like on those infomercials on TV, voila, it's done. It's not quite done. We need to finish it off with a cherry. A nice dry martini you want to finish off with an olive, preferably with a pimento or even blue cheese. This, we are using quality cocktail cherries, not maraschino cherries. Don't ever use maraschino cherries in a good cocktail. They're too sweet. They're a different kind of sweetness. They're sugary sweetness. This has more of a tart sweet. This is premium cocktail cherries from the Traverse City Whiskey Company. You can get those at Total Beverage or wherever. More of a black cherry. They're absolutely delicious. There you have it. My recipe for a perfect bourbon martini. 2 ounces of bourbon, 1 ounce sweet vermouth, 2, maybe 3 shakes of bitters in there, and of course, a quality cherry. That's all it takes. I hope you have a great weekend. We'll be back to wine next time. Cheers.